Well, hello everybody, how are you doing? Today I wanted to do something a little bit different, something really positive actually, and just look at Daniel Farke's unbelievable options that he has for Leeds United going forward in an attacking sense. Before we start the video, everybody, please make sure you're slapping a like, subscribe, and as always, get your thoughts in the comment section below. It's going to be an interesting one today. Make sure you're checking out IPM Group UK, the sponsors of the channel for the season. Rick and the gang literally are unbelievable, guys. CCTV security needs, make sure you're checking out them. Top link, description below. Back four as well, get your hands on some merchandise. I would if I were you. Cracking quality, well worth it. Tanaka, One Leeds, everything you want over there. Make sure you check that out. Also, we're sponsored as well by Football Prizes, everybody. Hospitality tickets. Listen, £3.95 and £3.99 to get involved, everybody. Doesn't really go lower or higher than that. Make sure you get involved. Hospitality, all that good stuff. Let's get into the video, shall we? So I just wanted to speak on the array of options Daniel Farke has going forward, everybody. And we're going to start in the double pivot because the double pivot is quite staggering at this moment in time in terms of the production levels of those two and soon to be three with Ethan Ampadu being back as well. And the interesting side of this is maybe people think that Ethan Ampadu just slots back in, but for me, there's a dynamic option in Joe Rothwell who's going to be really, really difficult to take out. I think the key thing to look at, everybody, when it comes to Joe Rothwell and the benefits of having him in this side is the chances that he's created this season so far with limited appearances. 26. Yes, everybody, 26. Now, when we've been speaking about the array of attacking options, everybody, the reason I mention that is Brendan Aronson from a central attacking midfield role, who's had a good season so far, has also created 26. So it really springs up the argument, really, when you're looking at a central attacking midfielder or a flat midfield three when Ethan Ampadu comes back. A flat midfield three or putting Joe Rothwell into almost an advanced number 8 role, number 10 role, because the chances that he creates is absolutely extraordinary, to be honest with you, for as I say, for the limited appearances he's had in comparison to, let's say, a Brendan Aronson who's played a large amount of minutes. And I think Rothwell could definitely be utilised in that role. Let me know what you think. Now, the unbelievable synergy that these two have between them, Joe Rothwell and Tanaka, is that there is an invisible rope. I've mentioned this several times between both of them. Tanaka's ability and his passing range and notion to dictate the tempo is something that I've not really seen at Leeds United before. He's a Premier League player in waiting, but I think Joe Rothwell is a real option in terms of Leeds United going forward, and this is why Daniel Farke has this array of talent within the lines really for him, and Joe Rothwell is a key contributor to that going forward with his dynamism and his chance creation. But there isn't really any argument there, and I think it's really important actually to highlight how good Rothwell is, but also let's get into the front four. Looking at the front four right now, everybody, Brendan Aronson has got 1 goal in 7. He's not got an assist in 7 as well, and I think right now he's struggling a little bit with form. His shots aren't that precise in front of goal, and he's not really getting the opportunities, or he's not cultivating the opportunities for himself to really back himself in terms of stats and numbers, really. Eye test tells you as well that Brendan's maybe struggling in the pockets a little bit. Creativity wise, he's struggling in the pockets to maybe open his body at certain points and really help Leeds when it comes to that clinical nature in front of goal. But for me, I would be going with Willian Gnonto in the central attacking midfield role, and I want to tell you about why. So I'm going to be looking at the numbers per 90 minutes, everybody, not in total, because that's more indicative of form. So Willian Gnonto is generally hitting the target a lot more when it comes to shooting than Brendan Aronson. He's attempting more shots and hitting the target way more frequently. And his XG of 0.28 goals per game indicates, in comparison to Brendan Aronson, that he's getting into scoring opportunities way more regularly per game. Brendan obviously edges Willian Gnonto when it comes to goals scored in that central attacking midfield role because Willian Gnonto has been wide right. The big thing to notice with Brendan is he actually takes a lot less shots than Willian Gnonto. And when you've got someone in that central attacking midfield role, if you're able to open your body up and get strikes on goal, of which we know Gnonto has a purer strike accuracy than Brendan Aronson, backed up by the stats, you kind of want someone in there like that. Now, interestingly enough, when you're looking at passing, Brendan Aronson per 90 minutes is actually very good at crossing the ball, which I didn't actually expect, and it is marginally better than Willian Gnonto's. For a central role, Willian Gnonto just absolutely bats Brendan out the way when you're looking at the numbers per 90 minutes. Chances created and assists obviously been the big one, which favours Willie. When it comes to open play, backed up by the numbers, Willian Gnonto is the more impactful player in open play, and especially centrally where he likes to get a lot lot of shots off. Now, the big one for me, everybody, and this is where I see Brendan lacking just a little bit, is the touches in the opposition box is still relatively high, still not as high as Willy Gnonto, but it's in being dispossessed and losing possession in that final third. Willy Gnonto is winning more fouls in the opposition area, he's getting more shots off on goal, his passing accuracy is better, he's been dispossessed less, he's got more touches in the opposition box, and he's got a higher dribble rate. Now, when you're looking at that central attacking midfield role, if you're able to hold the ball in the pockets and you've got a decent shot accuracy as well in that, which Willy Gnonto has over Brendan Aronson, you know that especially when you've got that low centre of gravity and that technical ability to do more in those central spaces and affect the game more, Willy Gnonto is going to be a much better option. Now, defensively, Brendan Aronson is much more active. We all know that, and the numbers definitely back that up as well. Brendan wins more tackles and he wins more recoveries as well. Now, why would Brendan work in specific games? His pressing action, for me, is very, very good. His defensive ability is also very good, and he's a massive, in my opinion, bit of artillery for Leeds United. The utilisation of Brendan Aronson, for me, has to work in specific games, and I've said that from the start. For me, as a central attacking midfielder, Willy Gnonto has the overall package. He's not played there at all this season, but he has the package to be transitioned into that central attacking midfield role quite easily for me. And do we lose anything with Brendan Aronson being out of that central attacking midfield role and Willy Gnonto being in that central attacking midfield role? I'll ask you that question. Now, he's got the option as well of Dan James on the right-hand side. I think Dan's had a really good season. I thought his performance last time out wasn't great, but he does have that right now. And look, if you are moving Brendan Aronson to the bench and Willy Gnonto centrally, let's make this hypothetical scenario, which I think Daniel Farke should look at. Dan James has much more of a voice wide right because Willy Gnonto isn't disrupting that. We all love Dan James. Is he going to affect the Championship throughout the season? I think so. Is he a bit of an unsung hero with Leeds United fans? Potentially. But Dan James gets more minutes wide right if Willy Gnonto's central as well, which for me is a net positive in comparison to Brendan Aronson being in every single week. Now, you have got the conversation of Largie Ramazani in that number 10 as well. Now, we were speaking about technical tendencies, we were speaking about the elevation of certain individuals in that position, and I think he turns on a dime. He's very quick, he's very explosive, but in terms of chance creation, I've not seen enough of it yet when it comes to Largie Ramazani, so I'm going to put the pause on that right now. But he comes straight in on that left-hand side for me, where he was very effective. 6 games, 3 goals, 1 assist. That's really good production. Also, we have the option, I have to say, of Manor Solomon. Now, the reason Solomon may start is he's got a 56% success rate when it comes to dribbling, which is very, very decent. An 88.6 pass accuracy as well indicates that Manor Solomon is not giving up possession of the ball that often. He's also been coming into form. I think we can say that the last 2 games, especially Swansea, I thought he was okay, but the game after against Luton, I thought he was really, really good. He was then taken out, which was a bizarre decision for me, but at the same time, it just shows the attacking options that Daniel Farke has at his disposal. Now, his 1.74 chances created per game indicates that Manor Solomon is a very effective option when it comes to that as well. And I actually think, to be honest with you, especially in the games of which we've spoken about Manor Solomon's improvement, I think his actual recoveries in the final third have been really decent, and I think he's really effectively added to Leeds' pressy system at points. Now, for me, the reason he just doesn't start right now is because Leeds' options, especially when Ramazani's back into the fold, are just so much vaster and so much better. But, you know, you look at, for me, bench options of Peru, Aronson and Manor Solomon, my God, like, this is what I'm talking about, everybody. The array of talent we have, and soon to be maybe Ethan Ampadu, are absolutely extraordinary. The reason he doesn't start for me, as I've just said, is not only the other players who are in, you know, are in the battle now with Manor, but it's also his defensive contribution as well when Leeds are on the back foot as well, which isn't that impressive when it comes to the numbers. And especially when it comes up to Largie Ramazani, I think Largie Ramazani is much more of an effective defensive presence, and he's much more athletic as well. So these are the options so far. We're talking about everybody, but there are players. There are so many players, and we're going to get to another battle right now, which I want your opinions on in the comment section below. So Daniel Farke has the ability to play a front 2, of which I think he should have done against Blackburn. I think would actually work in away games. Leeds trying to get up the pitch and winning the second balls, maybe putting Rothwell a little bit further forward, of which he actually thrives in that role. But also, if you've got 2 up top, it's going to be a little bit more of a problem for the opposition defences in terms of pressure and output. But let's say if we are going down the old Daniel Farke route and we are just going to play one up top, let's have a conversation about it. So as you guys know, there's certain Twitter accounts that I do really follow, and it's actually quite interesting when you're looking at some of it. When you're looking at Peru, and especially when you're looking at Matteo Joseph, he's done a graph basically on where the players put the ball when they're having strikes on goal. Matteo Joseph is going to score more goals because he's putting the ball in the corner every single time. And I think what maybe we're thinking to ourselves within the Leeds United community is he's played all these games, he's not scoring, he's having shots, he's rash and wasteful. But to be honest, when you look at the numbers, that's actually not the case. Now, this is actually quite insane when you're actually looking at it. He's had 27 shots, Matteo Joseph, 13 on target, and he's only scored 2 goals. And especially when the numbers are backing this up and he's basically shooting for the corners every single time, I think this is why people are saying, including myself, that if you just give him minutes at some stage, this is going to come good, because the averages just can't keep working out. If he has another 27 shots, and let's say hypothetically 13 go on target, are 2 more going to go in? It's highly doubtful. His expected goals are higher, don't get me wrong. He should have scored against Portsmouth. He should have scored against Sheffield Wednesday as just 2 examples. And his expected goals are at 3.44. As I said, everybody, even with the amount of shots he's having per game, which is 2.34, we've got 1.34 on target and 0.21 goals are going in. Those numbers just don't reflect what Matteo Joseph should be getting. And if you give him minutes based on the amount of shots he's having, based on the amount of shots he's having on target as well, and the fact that he's one of the only players to be just stood on his own in a data graph right now who's shooting for the corners, this average is going to increase, backed by numbers for Matteo Joseph. Just give him more minutes. Also, I absolutely love Joel Peru, and if I'm honest, I'd probably be starting them together. But Joel Peru has got a shot accuracy of 39%. Matteo Joseph's is nearly 50%. So at some stage, that's going to equal itself out. And he's probably been quite unlucky. Now, if I'm honest with you, Joel Peru's numbers back it up, and I actually think against the Derby County this weekend, I'd probably start Joel Peru. He's a much better finisher. He's going to be against a weak defence, in my opinion, in this game, and he's going to have a lot of chances at his disposal, especially if Ramazani's there. And who right now would I want in front of goal? It's Joel Peru. Goals per 90, 0.71 to Matteo Joseph, 0.21. Higher conversion rate with a better finishing ability. Passing volume and precision, Joel Peru's higher than Matteo Joseph. And his successful passes per 90, 16.44. Obviously ahead of Matteo Joseph. Now, the interesting thing with Joseph is the numbers are actually quite fascinating here. His touches in the opposition box, even with the limited amount of game time, Matteo Joseph's is nearly double of Joel Peru. So he's much more active in dangerous areas than Joel Peru, which is actually quite interesting to look at. Shows sort of higher mobility and a higher pressing ability as well, which is something to take into consideration. Now, he's far more suited in defensive situations as well. His numbers far outweigh Joel Peru. Duels won per 90, 4.44, which is actually quite high. Possession won in the final third per 90, 0.83 times, which when you're getting 8 minutes per game or 15 minutes per game, considerably is very, very decent. But this is all stuff that we knew. Joel Peru, the finisher, Matteo Joseph, the workhorse. So for me, there's a consideration and an option that Daniel Farke has really at his disposal, backed up by the numbers, in which games to start which players. Right now, Leeds need a reliable goal scorer. Joel Peru simply has to start because of his finishing ability and the proof to be a finisher as well. Joseph's pressing, his high mobility and his defensive actions means that, for me, he has to start away from home. If you're not going to start both of them together, a workhorse and a finisher, you start the workhorse away from home because he brings Leeds United into the game. If you want to have a couple of options, you can do that. You can go a little bit more route one, and his actions in the attacking third back that up. His activity in the opposition box and ability to win back possession in the final third is something that you've got to start with away from home, especially against certain teams, a la Blackburn. But for me, for a balanced approach in the home games, what you have to do, because Joel Peru is peronymous in certain games, you have to take him out, and you have to get the good. You have to have the good with the bad when it comes to Joel Peru, and there is good and there is bad. But you have to rotate Matteo Joseph in and Joel Peru out if you're not going to start with them together, because in away games you will just get Peru at certain points just not doing anything, and that's why you have to rotate, because you don't have them as one player, which is probably what we need. Away games against high pressure opponents, for me, Joseph starts, and in games like this weekend, home games against weaker opponents, Peru has to start. But for me, everybody, look, he's got a lot of options, and you might be thinking I'm flip-flopping when it comes to Matteo Joseph. I'm not. I'm just giving Joel Peru his flowers because he deserves it. But what I will say is, if you're not giving certain individuals enough minutes, with Matteo Joseph being 880 minutes, which is just nothing. How are they able to prove? How are they able to, deliver? And especially when they're having shots on target and they've then scored 2 goals and they're shooting in the corners, all of these things back up that at some point this is going to level out if you give him more minutes, but we're not going to see that. What would you do, everybody? Let me know in the comment section below. Daniel Farke has an array of attacking options. Fascinated to hear what you think. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in a bit.